Hey guys, welcome back. So far the imports that we saw were one-off imports, meaning the imports we saw works great when you have a use case to import the table all at once, but does not help you if you need to do incremental import. That is, let's say you want to import only the records that got inserted after your yesterday's import. There is no easy way to do that. The only way to do that using classic import that we have seen so far and to specify the where clause in the query like the instruction I'm highlighting here. There is a problem with this. You need to keep track of the records you process each day. That is not ideal because you cannot automate the process and it is prone to errors. Scoop offers a solution to this problem. You can create a scoop job to do incremental imports. Take a look at this instruction. Instead of saying scoop import, you say scoop job. And you say create and give a name. Here I'm giving the name as incremental import job. And you can give any name here. The next set of options are the usual ones like the MySQL location, table name, and target directory. And then you say incremental append. And for the check column option, you give the ID column. What you're essentially saying here is, each time when you execute the scoop job, incremental import job, you want to bring the records which are greater than the value imported by the column mentioned in the check column option from your last import. In our case, the ID column. It will make more sense when we see this in action. So let's create the scoop job first by executing this instruction. So I'm going to copy this and execute it. And there you go. The scoop job is now created. Now to see the list of scoop jobs that is already created, all you have to say is scoop job list. So let's go ahead and run this. And here you can see our newly created scoop job, which is incremental import job. And let's say if you want to look up the details of this incremental import job, it's very easy. There is an instruction for that. All you have to say is scoop job show the job name. In this case, incremental import job. So let's execute this. And the show option will bring up a bunch of information. It will have all the information that is required to perform an import operation. That is the connection string, the table name, the password, etc. And it also has the incremental mode, which is append rows. Because in our import instruction, we have specified the import mode option to be append, as you see in this instruction right here. So let's go ahead and execute this job using the exec command like this right here. Okay, the job execution is now complete and it has imported 10 records. And if you go up, you will see this job has executed an incremental import based on the column ID. And the upper bound value for the column ID is decided to be 10 because that is the maximum value of the ID column from the stocks table. Now just for verification, let's go ahead and check the results. And as you can see, we are seeing 4 files here, one for each mapper. Let's open one of the files here. As you can see, we see some records here, everything looks normal. Now let's look up the details of the incremental import job using the show command. Now we'll see a very important information here. Incremental last value equals to 10. And this is the maximum value from the ID column from our last import. So when we executed the scoop job, scoop actually recorded the maximum value from the ID column. So when we execute the job again, scoop will only bring records with ID greater than 10. Let's do this. Let's insert 3 more records into the table for trade date November 12, 2015 into the stocks table. So copy these inserts, go to MySQL and execute it. And there you go. We have inserted 3 more records into the stocks table. I'm going to do a select now on the stocks table. Now we have 13 records in the stocks table. Now what do you think will happen if we execute the scoop import job again? Remember, scoop has already recorded that the incremental value of the ID column to be 10. So when we execute the incremental import job again, Scoop will only bring these three newly inserted records. So let's go ahead and execute the incremental import job again. The job is now complete, and you can see here it retrieved only 3 records. And if you go a little up, you can see the lower bound value is 10 and the upper bound value is 13. Why don't we look up the details of the incremental import job again? And now the incremental last value is recorded as 13 because that is the new maximum value of the ID column. Let's just take a look at the output directory one more time. These 3 files here are from our last execution and looks like they have 1 record each. So let's open up just one of the file. And there you go. We see 1 record in file 004, and we'll see another record in 005, and we'll see another record in 006. And if you look at the value from the ID column, you see 11, 12, and 13. So the Scoop import job, when we executed the second time, only brought in the records with ID greater than 10. The incremental append option only works when you have an incremental unique column in your table. And also this does not capture the rows that were updated between the incremental imports. Meaning, let's say you imported the table using the incremental import job, and then 3 rows with ID 10, 11, and 12 were updated with this update SQL right here. Next time when you execute your incremental append job, it will only look for rows with ID greater than 13 because the incremental last value is recorded as 13, and hence it will not bring any rows. But what if you want to capture the updates as well? Scoop has a solution for that too, and it is a slight variation of our previous Scoop job instruction. Instead of saying incremental append, you say incremental modified right here. And here you give a column which records the modification timestamp for each record in the table. In our case, the column which records the modification timestamp is the updated underscore time column in the stocks table. Now let's list all the Scoop jobs. We should see our newly created job, which is incremental import modified job. Now I'm going to look up the details of the incremental import modified job. And here again you see a lot of information. The important information for us right now is incremental.mode, which is recorded as date last modified instead of append. So now let's go ahead and execute this Scoop job. Let's wait for the execution to complete and then let's review the output. The execution is now complete. This is the very first time we executed the newly created job, so it retrieved all 13 records. But the important information to note here is the incremental import is done based on the column updated underscore time. Okay, why don't we go ahead and verify the output directory. There you go, we see 1 file here because we have specified the number of mappers to be 1 in this job. Now let's open that file. We see all 13 records, perfect. Now, why don't we go ahead and update the stocks table, increasing the volume by 100 in 3 rows with ID 10, 11, and 12. And along with that, I'm also updating the update time column with the latest timestamp. In addition to this update operation, we are also going to insert 3 more records into the table. So let's go ahead and update and insert records into the table. So now we have updated 3 records and we have also inserted 3 records in the table. So let's go ahead and select from the stocks table. So we have 16 records in the table now, and records 10, 11, and 12 are updated as well. You can see the latest timestamp on these 3 records right here. Now before we execute the incremental import modified job again, let's go ahead and show the details of the incremental import modified job. The most important property for us to look at here is incremental last value. Here you have the maximum updated time from the last import execution, and it is recorded as 12:33:32. Now, if we execute this job again, it will bring all the records with updated time greater than this value right here, which will result in bringing the newly inserted records and also the records which we updated using the update SQL. So let's go ahead and execute the scoop job again. The job is now complete and it has retrieved 6 records, 3 newly created records and 3 records which we updated using the update SQL. And if you scroll a little up, you can see the lower bound value and the upper bound value. So this SQL import brought in all records which are greater than the lower bound value and less than equal to the upper bound value. So let's check the output directory again. So here's our new file. So let's open up this file. And this file should have only 6 records. And there you go, we see 6 records, 10, 11, 12, and 14, 15, and 16. The 10, 11, 12 are the updated records, and the 14, 15, and 16 are the newly inserted records. So we have executed the job twice, and you can see 2 files in our output directory, one from each execution. But there is still one problem though. The problem is that we don't have a consolidated import. And what I mean by that is, this file from the first import has 13 records, and the file from the second import has 6 records. In total, we get 19 records, but the number of records in the table is 16. And the overlap that we see here is records 10, 11, and 12, because these records were updated after the first import. Now, how can we consolidate these 2 files and see the current view of the table? We can do a full import from the table, but that is not an ideal solution if your table is huge. Scoop provides a better and more elegant way to do this using the scoop merge command. For the merge operation to work, first we need to create a jar file with a Java class file which represents the stocks table. And it is easy to create using the scoop codegen command. This is how it works. You say scoop codegen, give the MySQL location, give the table name for which you need to create the jar file with the Java class. And in the out directory, give the location in the local file system. Let's go ahead and execute this instruction. Let's change directory to the location of the output directory. And there you go. Here you can see stocks.java, and the stocks.jar file is stored in this temp directory right here in the local file system. So I'm going to copy this location and I'm going to bring the jar file to my home directory. And here is the stocks.jar. So this stocks.jar will have a Java class file representing the stocks table. And we are going to use the stocks.jar in our next command, which is scoop merge. For the scoop merge command, we need to provide 2 files as input. In the new data option, you need to give the most recent import, and in the onto option, you need to specify the file which you would like to apply or merge the contents onto with the recent file. We also need to give the jar file and the class name. In our case, it is named stocks, and you need to specify the merge key option, which has to be a unique column in the table. In our case, we can provide the ID column because it is a unique column in the table. When you execute the command, Scoop will take the records from the file mentioned in the new data option and use the ID column to match the records in the file mentioned in the onto option, and it will overlay the results. This is done for all the records from the file mentioned in the new data option. That is it. And once the operation is done, the old file will be merged with the new file contents, giving us a consolidated view and a current view of the table. Let's execute this merge instruction now. The merge job is now complete, and if you see here, the merge processed 19 records and consolidated the output to 16 records. So let's go ahead and look at the output directory. So we see one file here, and let's open this file. And there you go. This file has all 16 records from the stocks table, and it is showing the current view of the stocks table. That is it, guys. Let me summarize. In this lesson, we saw how to create incremental import jobs with append and last modified options. And we also saw how we can merge the data between two imports. In the next lesson, we'll see how Scoop can work with Hive and also how we can export data from HDFS into a MySQL table. See you in the next lesson.